Hello, everybody, and welcome to my weekly Meltdowns coverage of the week 3 eviction episode of Big Brother 22 All-Stars. I'm Beth. I'm here joined always by Tyler. How are you tonight, Tyler?
I'm doing great. Just mourning the loss of Janelle, the legend, the all-star. We all knew it was going to happen pre-jury, so this isn't new information. So I want to... I'm telling everybody it will be okay. Yes, so are we sad that we're losing Janelle tonight? Yes, but still a very exciting rest of the season, in my opinion.
And I totally agree, but I'm also excited tonight because we are welcoming one of my good friends as well as just a casual viewer of Big Brother who has never had anything else to do with the show. Oh, no, wait. You won it that one time. That's right. We have Stephen Moses from Big Brother 17 joining us tonight. Steve, how are you doing tonight?
I am fantastic in honor of the friendship of season 6. Because as I wish Tyler have said to Kaysar, I sealed your partner's fate.
Yes, I love that reference. Steve, I'm so glad to be joined by Big Brother royalty here. Winner of Big Brother 7.
No, Janelle's the one in the house. Janelle's in the house.
Not anymore.
But thank you for joining us, Steve. And I can't wait to talk about all things Big Brother, this eviction episode, and also maybe a little bit about Davonne's game since you played in her first season. So excited to get into everything. But of course, we started with the big news of the night. Janelle has gone home.
We did. I'm a little bit sad about it. I feel like most of America is too. However, I will say this. Steven and I were messaging back and forth, and I was like, listen, for the sake of my draft, or at least not the one draft, the other draft I had Janelle in, so I guess that's not good. I wanted Kaysar to stay. I actually think that this was a bad move to vote out Janelle, and I think this will actually have some pretty interesting effects on the house. What do you guys think? Steven, let's start with you.
Well, I'm Team Davonne, in case you didn't know this.
Yes.
I know that might be a secret. I don't know if everyone knows this. I'm kind of rooting for Davonne.
Yeah.
And right now, Derek's alliance, I'm calling it Derek's alliance because there's too many there are too many sub-alliances.
I mean,
there's the commission, there's the site. I can't keep track, so it's Derek's alliance. We all know who that is, and everyone thinks they're on the inside who isn't. Like Davonne and Bailey think they're part of Derek's alliance. They're not. David thinks he's a part of Derek's alliance. He's not, and it's a really easy, clear pecking order, and we are on a way to a steamroll for a Cody, Franzel, or Tyler win right now. I think that's unless something big changes, one of those 3 people is winning. So what I think is nice about Kaysar staying is he will be able to slip under the radar more than Janelle would have been able to, and possibly be able to lead something that would lead to a fracturing of Derek's alliance. And I'm hopeful about tonight because Kaysar was the first one to get those 3 balls in. That happened before the live show ended.
Yeah.
And if Kaysar's this good at thinking about it, if we get a Kaysar H tonight, we're going to get something like a Cody, Tyler, Franzel. It's going to go straight to the center of Derek's alliance.
All I'm going to say is I was watching the show with my brother and sister-in-law who have never really seen the show before. And they're like, who are we rooting for? I was like, Kaysar, Davonne, Bailey, maybe Ian. Those are really the people that we're only rooting for in this situation. And so they were like, okay. And so right when Julie starts talking about the schedule, girl, we know the schedule. Show us Kaysar putting those balls in. I was like freaking out. I'm going, no, go back to it. And they're like, Beth, it's okay. He only had 1 ball left and nobody else had sunk a ball. He's going to do it. And I was like, I don't care. I want to see the comeback.
Yeah, and of course, like right when they cut back to it, Kaysar's already moved on to the final round. So we very well could be looking at a Kaysar HOH coming up, and I'm so excited that I have the live feeds going on in the background just in case they come back.
I know. I just put them up on my other screen.
Yeah. I don't think that they will. That's just my guess, though. But we'll see. So let's talk about Davonne since we have Steve here with us. Steve.
Yes.
Should I call you Steve or Steven?
Whichever you say is fine with me.
Okay. All right.
I think he prefers BB17 winner Steve or Steven, whichever one of those you I would. Quick shout out. Steve's mom is actually in the my Twitch channel chat and says, hi, Beth and Steven. Who's the other host? The other host is one of my wonderful co-hosts, Tyler. Actually, Tyler and Allison, who normally start the show. Allison can't be with us tonight because her power is out because of the hurricane. So if anybody's affected by the hurricane, you have to be watching. Please know that we want you to be safe, and we hope that you're okay. Allison's okay. It's just her power's out, so we're running the show without her tonight. But they're both wonderful people who actually brought me onto this podcast. So thank you very much for asking. I'm happy to hype up Tyler and Allison anytime I can.
So of course we saw like Bailey and Davonne really kind of go through the motions this week and what should be like a really simple week. And I feel like all of us are collectively just like want to like shake them a little bit and say like, do not trust these guys. They are trying to take you out.
Totally.
And of course we saw like that huge montage of David just like totally fumbling. I'm glad that they showed that segment tonight. But what frustrated me is like Julie called it rookie mistakes. And I think I tweeted this, but I was like, why are there rookie mistakes in an all-star season? Like this doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. Yep.
So,
well, that was the other thing too. Tyler and Cody both called him a rookie too in the house, which I was like,
yeah. So the big question, of course, is like, Tyler, I think, saw David as like a goat in this game, but I think he's more so turning into a liability for not only him, but like everybody in the house. I was thinking about it last night and I was like, you know, it would actually be really exciting to see a David HOH because I feel like that would open up the entire game in like such a messy way. And I feel like that's what we need. What do you think, Steve?
I think he's our Chicken Georgia this season.
Yes, 1000%.
If we had an analogy, that's where that would be. I feel slightly foolish tonight because I was defending David a bit earlier this week. And the reason why is there is legitimacy to the intentionally playing yourself down, intentionally making yourself presented as the ignorant outcast who's unevictable because anyone you could possibly sit next to is more threatening. And when he had that conversation earlier in the season about, hey, how does the veto work? Like, come on, we all knew that was BSing. And I was really hoping this was all his master plan of like, be underestimated, be written off. It's not. Yeah. This is not intentional.
Well, you're not alone. I was very high on David going into the season because last season when he was a part of Camp Comeback, he actually read the house really well, picked out who was working with who, was like read it like a children's book. Like he got it and nobody else seemed to. And then this time it's like he can't figure out what, you know, foot to put before the other. And I'm really honestly a little confused by it. I made a statement both on Twitter, but it started with our Tuesday show where I was saying, I think what part of this we have to always consider, I'm going to say this as many times as I need to, is that when you are one of very few Black players in the house, you're the only Black male who's presenting as Black male. We know that Kevin is also half Black. It puts a certain expectation of your racial identity and representing that for the entirety of the country. So you are constantly thinking, how am I representing Black men? On top of the fact that you are trying to, oh my gosh! Steve, wait, now I'm confused. We have two Allisons here.
There goes my cover. Thanks a lot for showing up.
Listen, y'all don't say much because you're probably going to get a bad echo. So I'm taking just 1 second of y'all's time while I can. Steve, your season was the first that I covered, and I was so happy when you won. You have no idea, but you. No, oh wait, I'm on the thing. Hold on a second. No, I just wanted you to know your season was the first I ever that covered Big Brother, and it started this whole channel pretty much. So I just wanted to say hi while I could. So
thank you.
And I adored the hell out of you, and these two, they better behave. So
you know, I definitely adore you and Beth. Definitely two people I adore. Absolutely.
That's fine.
Well, I don't want to interfere. Y'all talk game. All right, bye.
Bye, stay safe.
What's that? Bye.
And actually, now that I'm thinking about this, you know, I got a kicker from the thing. Okay, cool. Now that I'm thinking about this, where Steven and Kathy, Steven's mom, may know Allison is when I played in my first Sequester mini last year. Allison's the one who won that mini when I was playing it. So if you watched, she and I made it to the final 4 together. Well, me, final 3. And then she ended up winning the mini. So that's who Allison is. That's how I met her, at least. So very cool. So yes, getting back to David, I truly think that one of the reasons why he has having such a hard time is like, you go through the experience that you did with all the racism and implicit biases that you faced last year. You're in the middle of a social revolution right now with Black Lives Matter. And then you go on a show where you're one of the 2 Black men, one of the 4 Black people on the entirety of the show. And you have to constantly think about things that White House guests just don't have to think about, like how you're representing yourself, how are you interacting with somebody, even in a game conversation. It's hard. And when you're one of the few in the house, it makes it harder implicitly for you. Then put on top of that you've never played an entire season. You've never voted before, and you're a rookie. Honestly, you are a rookie. Yeah, it's not surprising to me that he's making a lot of mistakes. Now, I'm not going to use that as an excuse for everything. Like, he had plenty of time to prepare. He had plenty of time to like look up who some of these people might be that he would go in the house against and study up. But I do think that that's an important thing that we have to remember. If anything, I think that David's mistakes are actually going to help Davonne and Bailey, because it helped open their eyes that maybe Tyler and Cody are not good for their game, which they aren't. Do you still have your chart, Tyler? Because I'm interested. I feel like this is up Steve's alley.
Yes, can I dig up one thing that you kind of touched on?
Please.
Davonne in my season, and talking about the pressure that's on you of being that one representative. Davonne and I talked a lot of game prior to her in like the month or 2 before she left for this season. Something she told me that I thought was insightful. I know the show finangled this. The reason Davonne was evicted the way she was is on my season there was the inside alliance and the outside alliance. Shelly and Clay were kind of the last 2 people roped into the inside alliance that Davonne was already in. Mm-hmm. Davonne wanted nothing to do with Shelly and Clay, and Davonne was very vocal about not wanting Shelly and Clay be roped into that inside alliance, which is why when Shelly won that HOH, why she targeted Davonne. That's Davonne's eviction in a nutshell. And additionally, like, I tried to work with her, and same thing, an ally was coming to her and she wasn't having it. I just made a tweet teasing her about that, actually. And what she said was that paranoia of that instinctually not trusting these people when they don't look like me, I'm going to be naturally hesitant. And she mentioned it hadn't even occurred to me. And she was telling me it was a major obstacle. So while she did these actions that rightfully caused her eviction, it's the question of what went into causing those actions that I hadn't really thought about before.
Yeah.
So it plays a bigger role than I think even I realized. And I didn't realize it played any role until Davonne was telling me about it 2 months ago.
Totally.
Absolutely.
And I think that Davonne is like in a unique situation where she can kind of put herself in David's shoes and where she was in your season, Steve, and kind of throw him a lifeline, throw him a rope. But like at a certain point, and I think we're seeing Davonne get to this point, like she can't keep like throwing him a life raft in this game, especially when it's just like totally like blowing everything up. But Beth, you make a really good point about how this kind of opened their eyes a little bit. It made them zoom out on like the bigger picture of like what's going on. I do want to show Steve this chart from our Tuesday update because Steve, I made this like chart of how I think the alliance structure is going on in the house. So we have Tyler, Enzo, and Cody in this like inner circle. And then on the outside of that is Dani, Christmas, and Nicole. And then on the outside of that is Davonne and Bailey. And I feel like Davonne and Bailey don't really know about these like other layers of like inner circles. And their allegiance is to each other instead of like somebody on like another inner layer of the circle, which is the problem. Like they're kind of in like a limbo with themselves instead of like trying to ingratiate themselves like inwards into this circle. So maybe you could speak to that in terms of like alliance structure and everything. What do you think?
It reminds me a lot of Boston Rob in the season that he finally won. Or what you did is you have your alliance of 6, and then within your alliance of 6, you have a sub-alliance, 3 sub-alliances of 2, and each of those you have a final 2 with each of those people. The key to Boston Rob's win, I wish I could tell you what the name of the season was. I couldn't, but the key, I remember he was, thank you. The key to his win on Redemption Island was that he had alliances within alliances within alliances, and no one ever revolted because everyone thought they were the inside of the inside.
Yeah.
That's how he did it.
Right.
And that's kind of what's happening here.
Yeah.
No one knows they're on the outs. And that's the key to preventing a revolt. It's a bit like maybe like a brigade also, where you had Matt had his other alliance with Reagan, and then you had Hayden reaching out to Kristen, and you had all these other little side alliances. So everyone thought they were on the inside, and that's how you steamroll. That's how you do it. This is a textbook definition.
It's very much like Paul's game in BB19, too, to be honest. I mean, if everybody thought it was them and Paul, everybody who went, well, besides Cody, we know that. But I mean, like everybody, when they got to jury, even Raven was like, I am the mastermind. And Paul was like my sidekick. And we were like, girl, you can't even make chicken parm from what we've seen on the feed. So anyway, so yeah, no, I definitely agree. That's why when we were looking, we did a lot of analysis of that chart on Tuesday's show. So I highly, if anybody liked that chart and they want to go back and watch Tyler explain this a little bit more in detail while we discussed the feeds this past week, I highly suggest you check out our Tuesday show from this past week. But as tonight's eviction came around and they put all these segments together, that it was almost like they were trying to write that Kaysar was going to go. I started really thinking about it, and I was like, you know what? David is a blessing to Davonne and Bailey's game, but not in the way that they think he is.
Yes, 1000%, Beth.
and that is going to be beautiful. And I trust both of those strong women to figure that out within the next week or so. I'm really hoping that we see either one of the two of their groups or their, oh my gosh, I can't talk. Bailey or Davonne win their respective groups going on to the finals. I would love the final to have like half of it be Kaysar, Bailey, and Davonne. And then I would even do a Kevin HOH. Like, I mean, like you throw a few of the outside people in there and Ian, like, could you imagine if 5 of the 6 up there were Kevin, Ian, Davonne, Bailey, and Kaysar for that second round for this HOH competition? I'd be so there for it. But I think that they need power and they need it soon. If it's an HOH, that's the best case scenario, but honestly, they need a veto and they need something that's going to force some cracks to happen. Unfortunately, yeah, exactly. They need to go after somebody who, like Bailey said, is in everyone's ear. Cody.
Yeah,
honestly.
So the problem with this, Beth, and like this all sounds good and like a dream version of what's going to happen in the season of Big Brother. Thank you so much, Stephen Holden. Manifesting
Thank
a Davonne HOH. That is so sweet. Thank you.
Thank you. Wait, why are you giving thumbs down to that?
I want Davonne to stay low. I want attention off of her. I don't want her in an HOH suite for another month or two.
Do you think that she can survive that long, though, without winning power?
If Kaysar wins an HOH and does what he did in season 6 and brings a series of people up to the HOH and makes the Sovereign 6-esque alliance, but instead of that, but like imagine Kaysar HOH pulling Davonne and Bailey up, pulling a Kevin up, pulling maybe even a David up, maybe an Ian, and building that alliance. If Kaysar or one of the outsiders, someone not in Derek's alliance, can win this HOH. And wrangle in this alliance, possibly with the assistance of David's mouth. Yes, I think if this alliance can happen, I would rather Davonne wasn't the center of it, because if the power flips back, then she's the center of it. I want to make sure if someone in Derek's alliance wins power again, Davonne's not the one they're focused on, and that happens by her not being the HOH and one of her allies being the HOH instead.
Yeah.
It's true. I think it's all situational. If Kaysar's clearly not going to win, but she has the option to, I think she needs to take that option to really save herself. I mean, it's all situational. Yeah, exactly. I think we'll do Steve's alliance versus Derek's alliance. This is what we're going to call it from now on. We'll do Steve's alliance, your Ians, your Davonnes, your Kaysars. I
know which side I'm on for those alliances. With the exception of Dani. It's a no secret I'm a huge Dani fan. She's one of my favorite players ever. But I do want to talk about her because we had that Hinky vote that her and Enzo did. Now, I have a theory. That her and Enzo did this to put blame on Bailey and Davonne, to kind of because everybody's been talking about how they have been fighting for Janelle a little bit this week, and it's really putting some tension on that alliance. So I think that Enzo and Dani are like, why don't we throw votes onto Janelle? 2 votes. It makes it seem like they voted to keep Janelle after all of this mess this week. So I think that they're trying to make sure that insecurity towards Bailey and Davonne like stays and flourishes this week, instead of like Tyler like trying to like put it to rest kind of thing. What do you guys think?
Question I don't know the answer to. Are Dani and Enzo that closely connected and trust with each other to coordinate that?
No, not really. So I'm wondering like why it's the 2 of them. I would think like if it was Dani's plan, I think the 2 of them did this separately. I think it just like coincidentally happened that both of them did it because we saw Enzo do it last week. So like I think that Enzo's just like on his own planet. If it were Dani's like master plan, I would think it would be her and Nicole doing it together, especially because nobody would ever expect Nicole Franzel to do a vote to keep Janelle, right?
I do wonder if Dani didn't coordinate this with Enzo, but that Enzo was just doing another Hinky vote, and Dani thought it would be best to throw 1 Hinky vote, and then it ends up being 2, which isn't that bad. That's when, first of all, Julie's reaction to her voting for Kaysar was hysterical.
I loved it. Chenbot like malfunctioned. It was so funny.
It was so great. But the other thing that I thought was great about that was I sat back and I said, like timing wise of who's going to be voting first, this really did seem like, oh my gosh, did the producers know that this was going to happen? Because they just did all these segments basically saying that Janelle's going to be saved, that all these people want to keep the big target back in the house. And then the first 2 of 3 votes that we see before a commercial break are to evict Kaysar. And I was like, absolutely, like, I can't believe this is going to happen. I think it's a smart idea for Dani to do this, to throw a Hinky vote, because this week we saw her get some questionable lines of loyalty with Tyler, but I think we have seen her get closer with Enzo and Cody specifically. A lot of that was also covered by Tyler on Tuesday. But I think that Dani is recognizing that she is in a vulnerable position, I think, if she can't put the blame on other people. In that 6, I think she's probably the first one to go out of that 6. I think that Nicole will always be more loyal to boys than she is to any of her girls. I think that Christmas has stronger bonds with Enzo and Tyler specifically. I think that the 3 boys are going to have each other over the 3 girls. And I think that Dani recognizes that she kind of needs to be able to cause a little bit of chaos and then prove her loyalty to other people through the chaos. So I think this was a really smart move for her.
Yeah. Beth, I know you haven't watched Big Brother 13, but Steve will definitely get this reference. I'm ready to see Big Brother 13 Danielle flip on her alliance and just like cause like a shitstorm in the house. And I think that we are a lot closer to that than we think. The tension is like really brewing between her and Tyler. And I'm glad that we finally got her insight in the diary room last night's episode to see like, because a lot of people are online are like, what is she doing? Who is she loyal to? She's loyal to herself. Like she wants to win this money, and she has proved time and time again in the Big Brother house she is not afraid to flip on her allies if she thinks it'll get her one step forward. What do you think about the whole like Dani and Tyler tension in the group of 6, Steve?
I'm going to start with Beth. You are talking about, hold on, because a whole bunch of ideas were being thrown out there.
Yeah.
The Hinky votes and Dani being on the outside. My question with Hinky votes always comes down to everyone knows they're a Hinky vote. I'm pretty sure that all 13 people in that house right now knows that whoever those 2 people were, everyone knew Janelle was going and there were Hinky votes and people trying to stir things up.
Yeah. That's a good point.
That's a really good point. The point you're making about Dani needing to do something because she's being on the outside, and if Kaysar doesn't win this and this continues to be a Derek Alliance steamroll and we have that final 3 of, Christmas, Cody, Tyler, etc. Those, I think people know to ignore those Hinky votes. I think you're right about the idea, but I don't think the Hinky votes are going to execute it.
That's really good insight to have, though, because that's always something I wondered. There were a lot of Hinky votes in BB17, specifically in the beginning.
I ignored them.
Yeah, okay.
Because everyone knows they're Hinky votes, and it's not someone actually trying to do something.
But what was interesting is that you were often the target of people throwing a Hinky vote and then saying, well, it was Steve.
Now, did they
Isn't that
actually
crazy?
me, or was my name just the easy name to throw?
There were a few people who did think it was you. I think that caused a lot of mistrust earlier mid-game between you and Vanessa. Like it was one more thing that was used to put like a little bit of distrust with you and Vanessa. And I think that there were a few other people who thought that too. I don't think the what do people call them? The goblins?
Yes.
I don't think the goblins were affected by it at all, but it was really more like the Oz twins, Vanessa.
Really?
And from what I saw in feeds, it would come up in conversation. It didn't dominate the conversation, but it would be often used as an example of this is why we can't potentially trust Steve. So that's why I always thought, I wonder if that plays a role in it. But I don't know. Maybe they were just using that as an excuse to throw out an argument, even if they knew that the Hinky vote wasn't.
That's
really
my guess. Because I think everyone knows it's a Hinky vote.
Yeah.
Tyler, I am less optimistic than you are about Dani doing the stuff.
I totally accept that. That's fine. Go ahead.
And the reason why is I think Dani is someone who like, by the way, I love Ian's game right now, and he's talking about how he's sleeping and playing dumb. Love what Ian's doing. Stamp of approval on Ian's game. And Dani can't do that. And you remember, and people at home, what a mess she was when she got that golden key. Because you're like, I want to do stuff, and the golden key is the epitome of not doing stuff. Yeah. And I think she just felt this urge to have her footprint on something. And I think in the world where all evictions go as planned in 13, I don't think that I think that flip happens much later or not at all. Yeah. I think that required that golden key kick. And I don't think she has that. I don't think there's anything that's happened that's nearly as powerful as a golden key for Dani yet.
Sure. So you think that like this season we're not going to see her like flip until it's like way too late? You think Tyler's going to be the one to strike first?
Or Kaysar leads it. Or Kaysar brings in a Dani as a soldier.
Yeah, I would love that. That would be so great.
I'm really interested. Who do you guys think, if Kaysar were to win tonight, who would he put up? And then I want to go through a couple other people with this that I think are key players.
If Kaysar won HOH, go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
I'd like to think that the people in that center circle on Tyler's chart.
So two of the three boys. So like a Tyler and Cody, a Cody and Enzo,
an Enzo, a Nicole Franzel, a Christmas.
Okay.
I agree with Matt Henning here. I think Cody and Nicole Franzel would probably be seeing the block together, which is what I said on Tuesday would be the thing that like totally shakes up the entire game. And I think we're all ready for that. I just wonder like who would go in that situation.
Doesn't matter.
I feel like nobody goes home. I don't think Cody goes home next to anybody. I think his ties are so strong with everybody that I feel like a Nicole would go home over Cody. I feel an Enzo would go home. Maybe not Enzo, actually. Enzo might be the only person I think that people would recognize, oh, wow, like he wasn't in power, but he's won competitions and he's been listening to people, versus Cody seems to be more of the head of the snake, if that makes sense. Like, I think he's the only one. I think in a Tyler versus Cody, I think Tyler goes. I don't know. I'm very interested to see what happens. What I'm nervous about is that if Kaysar, Davonne, Bailey win, they only put one person from that middle alliance up, and they put like Memphis up and like next to them. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah,
and no one would care if Memphis went.
What's that?
And no one would no alliances would be shattered if Memphis goes.
And that's exactly why they would vote for him out, and it wouldn't do anything. And that's what I'm scared about.
And it makes me worried because, like Janelle said, like on her exit interview, she was like, "Yeah, Kaysar has no idea that Memphis is like not on his side. Like he's like totally being snowed by him." So I mean, this could be the case. As much as we would like to think that Kaysar would put up Cody and Nicole Franzel, may not happen. Like he could go after. Like I could see him being talked into putting up David on the block. honestly. And that would be worst case scenario for the season. I think the longer David stays and like just plays like a terrible chaotic game, I think the better for the season.
Well, definitely for a variety of people's games. It's good.
But if Kaysar thinks Memphis is with him, that means Kaysar won't put up Memphis, which is good.
Right.
No, that's good. But I think that like a Davonne or Bailey could, because I don't know, even with what David told them, I don't know that Bailey and Davonne are as aware that the other 6 are a stronger 6 than the one that they think that they're a part of with Cody and Tyler and Dan.
But David just put it in black and white for them.
Oh, but
just now.
Oh, just now they did on television, but it's still been a couple days since that happened, right? So what we've seen is still some wavering back and forth. And I think someone said this earlier in the chat that Davonne was talking about putting up Kaysar and Cody.
Oh,
no, Cody, like
Cody.
putting only one up and then putting up against Kaysar, which guess who goes home in that situation?
I wonder.
So.
That is such a weird move. Like, what does she have to gain by putting up Kaysar against Cody? Like, that just like exposes, right? But like in a bad way, I think, because like that just like cements like all of the mistrust that they have for Bailey and Davonne right now. Cody is going to stay in the house, and of course, he's probably going to win another HOH. And then who gets put up on the block? It's Bailey and Davonne. And Davonne goes before Bailey, 1,000%.
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm interested. Who is somebody that you are really surprised by this season?
Kevin.
A good or a bad way?
Kevin.
Okay.
Preseason, he was my winner pick.
And he's not anymore?
He's not anymore. I severely underestimated how strong the preseason alliances were going to be playing this season. I anticipated, the obvious one, like a Janelle and Kaysar working together, or a Cody and Nicole Franzel working together, or an obvious Nicole Franzel and Ian alliance because they need each other in the end because they won't be able to beat anyone else in a jury. But I did not realize that Derek was going to do what he did. And also, Kevin was just generally really savvy in 11. Like he was unequivocally the best player of season 11 by a very comfortable margin. I love the way he got Russell out at 6, only just put the knife in Jeff at 5. I thought that was brilliant. That's probably my favorite part of the season.
It's so good, yeah.
And then, like, who is this guy? And what did he do with season? Same thing with Memphis. Like, I was always someone who talked up Memphis as like, no, Memphis had a lot of his own really great agency, completely separate from Dan. Memphis was not a Cody at all.
See, me and we just did a Big Brother 10 rewatch, like right before they did Big Brother All Stars.
Good,
and that's what I said, Steve. That's what I said. But
I highly disagree.
Beth, who watched it for the first time for our rewatch, she was not on the Memphis train, and I think that this season is just like solidifying her Memphis.
Listen, I've just been taking this like, oh, I'm so right. Look at what's happening. No, I was kidding. Here's the thing. I've said it before a billion times, and this probably won't be the last time I say it. I'm not saying that Memphis is a bad player. I'm saying that Memphis doesn't have as much of an agency that you think he does in the game. Like, I think people give him too much credit. His game in BB10 was highly social. He was able to make relationships that other people weren't. But he often, when it came to the strategic part of the game, would overplay and then get those people mad at him. I'm specifically talking about from Final 5 onwards. He could have voted Dan out at Final 5 and won the game because he wouldn't have gone against 2 people then, and Jerry and Keisha, who would have kept their trust in him. Instead, he made 2 people mad at him, which they're going to have agency in the jury. You know what I mean? So like he only kept his trust to Dan. He could have gotten out Dan.
Can we go down the season 10 rabbit hole? Is that kosher?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
No, Beth, because if Memphis gets rid of Dan at 5, Keisha and Rennie are going to work together. Are Jerry and Memphis supposed to make a final 2?
He had a final 2 deal with Jerry. He had a final 2 deal with Keisha. He had a final 2 deal with Dan.
Are you telling me, after all of the BS that Memphis and Jerry went through all season long, that they'd be able to put that behind them?
They both knew that they might have to do that. They had a very good conversation, and in the confessional, it was very clear that Jerry, who is Jerry, was like, I know that I have to work with Memphis in order to get to the end. So what happened is when he voted out Rennie, you then sit back and you're like, okay, so you made Jerry and Keisha lose complete trust in you when you could have just gotten rid of Dan and kept the trust that nobody was going to go after Memphis at Final Four. They would have gone after Jerry.
More optimistic about.
I don't think so. I mean,
okay,
it's obvious since none of those people voted for him at the end. They clearly didn't like him enough. So like his social bonds then that everybody thinks were so great.
So I think Memphis and Jerry would have aligned that like Keisha has to go at 4 because they all said at the end game that Keisha was this big jury threat at the end. But then once it gets down to Memphis, Jerry, and Rennie, I think Memphis and Jerry are both thinking, I have to take Rennie to the end and beat her in the end.
And who has a better chance of winning that final HOH? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I think the crux of our disagreement, and this is something we'll have to agree to disagree. If Memphis, if a Jerry has that, if you have a Final Four of Memphis, Jerry, Rennie, Keisha, and Jerry has that Final Four veto, I think he evicts Memphis over Keisha or Rennie.
I think
he will gladly go to final
Keisha,
3 with Keisha and Rennie if that's what it takes to evict Memphis. I don't
he
think he would
had
have
many confessionals saying though that Jerry at the end there talks about how he would not have been able to go against the 2 women. He knows that getting out Rennie was a necessity for him to go further in the game. So that's why I don't think that necessarily would have happened. I think he would have taken out Rennie or something like that. But I get what people say. I'm just saying that I tend to be in the minority of not thinking. I think we give Memphis too much credit. But bring it back,
giving him too much credit this season.
But that's what I was just going to say. The transition to this season, we're all on the same page when it comes to Memphis.
Yes, we are.
But that's the thing. Like
he even took Allison's power out. That was rude of him.
It was really rude. She was really rooting for him. She continues to really root for him. He's somebody that I think is interesting. He, after being obviously with being the HOH last week, having a lot of the attention on him, he's had no attention on him this past week. Like we barely saw him in the edit. We barely saw him on feeds or from whenever I was able to turn into feeds. If he wins, who do you think he puts up? Do you think he goes for Ian this time? Do you think that he?
I think it's.
Does
Ian
he have to choose a side? That's what
Ian
I'm thinking.
And I hate that like everybody's like playing like so safe because like I just have a big question mark in terms of like where does Memphis think his end game is going? Like where does he think that his path to the end is? And that's what I'm struggling to answer for a lot of these players in the house. I feel like my pool of like people I think could win this game is already like super small, and that's why like the alliance structure is so impressive to me as somebody who like really loves like the strategy of it all. Is it the most entertaining to watch? No. But
something you two might know that I don't. Why did I assumed Memphis and Ian were going to be an automatic final 2. I am really shocked. I know Memphis has been saying how he wants to get rid of Ian. I expected them to be locked and loaded from the get-go, and I'm shocked they're not. Do either of you know why?
I honestly, Steve, like have no idea like where the Memphis Ian feud started. It's very bizarre to me because I don't think it. Yes, it was all Becky.
Freaking Becky did it.
It was all Becky, 1,000%.
Agreed.
See, I was sitting here thinking
I can handle Ian and Memphis.
I was sitting here thinking it was that damn Steve, but whatever. No.
You know why Memphis and Ian aren't together?
I really have no idea like where it started.
I don't know for sure. My theory is that because Ian has really stuck to his laying low kind of thing, and that Memphis was so quick to link up with the Derek people that they didn't have a conversation to get on the same page. which I think in Memphis's mind, coming off of a season, which I say coming off of, it's been like 10 years. But on the season where he was in with everybody from the get-go, when you have somebody who is laying low and you're not connecting with them, I think that Memphis might have taken that as a, well, you're not with me kind of thing, which means maybe we're going to have some kind of rivalry or something. I don't know. Like that's the only thing I can kind of come up with. I don't know.
But they didn't even walk in with a preseason thing. Like if they walked in with a preseason thing and then that burned it, I'd be like, okay, I at least understand what happened here.
I think a lot of people in the chat are pointing out it's probably a pride thing for Memphis that he lost to Dan 7-0, and then Ian beat Dan 6-1. So like it's like a pride thing for Memphis. Like he has to take out Ian to say like, listen, I am the better player that's next to Dan in the end. We even saw a confessional. Well, we saw him in the diary room say this. Like, this isn't like just like a theory. Like he said this to America, to the cameras. He was like, I have to avenge Dan. And I'm like, why do you have to avenge Dan when Dan won this game and you didn't? Like, you need to zoom out and look at the bigger picture here because like at this point, like he's really, I don't know, like falling dead in my opinion in this game. Steve, who are some standout people that you think could still win this game? Yeah.
Cody, Tyler, Frenzel, Christmas. I think I'm done.
What about Enzo?
Enzo. Yes, Enzo.
Yeah, I think that it's a non-zero chance that like Nicole Franzel could be the first 2-time winner of Big Brother.
Unless Kaysar wins this and makes the Sovereign 6.
Yeah. So this Sovereign 6, who would it consist of? It would consist of Kaysar, Ian, Bailey, Davonne, Kevin, and David.
Perfect. Love it.
Yeah.
Maybe even Danny.
They're never gonna win.
It's very possible. Win. It's very possible, Steve.
Well, what else can they do?
They gotta get Danny to switch sides. You need to have somebody. Here's the thing, okay? You gotta break up the people who keep winning all the competitions.
Win, and so Kaysar wins and put them up.
That's what I'm saying. But then you've got to, like, you can't just have all of them be on one side and that's it. You have to be open to having somebody who's willing to flip from that inner circle to be a part of your alliance. You have to. Otherwise,
Danny's probably the easiest.
And Danny's the easiest. That's what I'm thinking. Yep. Over David. David has proven time and time again he cannot play this game. Do not make him part of the 6. Make him the 7th that is distant. A distant 7. You keep him in the game over anybody else on the other side. But you bring over Danny, or if like Christmas can come over as well because of her relationship with Ian, something like that. Bring somebody like that over, preferably one of those 3 girls, probably not Franzel. I'm just saying, like in general, like that's what you got to do.
Well, the interesting thing here that may actually pull Franzel, I'm thinking about now, is Franzel's, I don't care whatever else happens, Franzel's number 1 loyalty is to Ian Terry.
You think
Point
so?
blank in the period. It has to be. Because
I don't know.
Unless someone is really, really, really pissed off, a jury is always going to vote for a non-winner over a winner. If Nicole wants to win this game, she needs to be next to Ian. If Ian wants to win this game, she next to be Nicole. They are tied to each other in a way that no one else in this house is.
I get that theory 100%. But do you think that's how Nicole actually thinks?
I don't think so.
They made the $1 Million Club. They know they need each other. They know this.
When I'm seeing them interact, you can tell that Nicole's like phoning it in with Ian. Like, oh, wow, do you really think people think that way? Like, oh, no, I don't really. Actually, why am I doing that when I know I can do a Nicole Franzel impression? She's like, oh, no, do you really think that they're like doing this? Like, do you think that they really think of us as a pair? Oh, no. Seriously?
That's actually substantially better than I was expecting.
No.
You need to put your hair up how she had it.
Oh my gosh. What was that Mickey Mouse hairstyle tonight? I was kind of living for it. I was like, girl, did you win a luxury cup and you get to go to Disneyland that's not open right now, but you better work.
No, it's open.
In California?
Oh, in Florida, it's open.
Yeah. Could you imagine? We're gonna fly you. I got to fly over a hurricane to go to Florida. I get to go see.
Yeah, I think that
Oh my gosh.
I think the whole Nicole Ian dynamic is just a working relationship for both of them. Like, I feel like they keep sliding each other information, but I don't think that either of them is like 100% loyal. Like, I think that they're like willing to like cut them if they need to. Ultimately, and unfortunately, I think Nicole's loyalty is to Cody.
I think Cody is her number one right now.
That's
And in
dumb.
terms of actuality, I think that you're right. She needs Ian more than anybody else. I just don't think that she sees it that way for whatever reason. I think she does see that I need Ian, and as long as I can get him
Cody
in there.
beats Randall.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
No matter what.
Absolutely.
No matter what.
To be fair, I thought that Paul would beat Nicole, so I don't know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
but
at the
they
end of the day.
didn't have the winner effect.
That's true. Oh, totally. Yep. I just think that at the end of the day, we're just going into week 4. And I think in some of these players' minds, they're like, that's so far off. Right now, I just need to get this person to go farther with me. And then I can make the decision as to who I need to sit next to.
It's not that far off.
And it's not that far off. Exactly.
Well, the two people who are by far locked in the most are Ian and Nicole. Everyone else has exponentially more freedom than those two people.
Yeah, totally.
So I want to bring up Beth and I's draft here because Beth lost her third person tonight. R.I.P. Janelle. She was good while we had her, but my team is looking strong, looking good. So we'll see how that plays.
Your team is so good. My team.
Except for Kevin.
Yeah, you have Kevin.
Beth, you never know. David could pull out a really great end game.
Okay, time out. My team is solely resting right now on Enzo and Memphis.
Yeah. And Nicole.
No, I mean in terms of points, like how many points people have actually gotten right now. It's just Enzo and Memphis. And I love and that's great. Enzo's been winning stuff. He's in a really good spot. Memphis is in a questionable spot in the game. Like he's fine for right now. Yeah, oof is right. Oh, God.
So and then of course we have our other draft that's just for the win. So of course Andrew lost his second blonde tonight. Steve, who do you think has the best draft team?
And by the way, this is Alex Kidwell's team, Alex, and Andrew Gibson is Andrew.
Yes.
Tyler, and it's not close.
I know.
Yeah, I'm feeling real good about my chances
Alex
this year.
might pull it out with Tyler, but
yeah. I don't know.
See,
though.
I don't think Tyler's going to go as far as we all think he is. I think he's going to be a casualty of a blind side, like a backdoor plan. And I think that he'll be, or like a double elimination kind of boot.
He jut him out.
Yeah.
Yeah, very possible. I would love to see that because like I said, I think it blows like the whole game open if any of like Tyler, Cody, or Nicole Franzel goes. We would see a lot of shifting puzzle pieces, and I would be here for it.
Do that this week.
Yeah. We'll see. Well, we're all crossing our fingers for Kaysar HOH, and I hope, Steve, that you're right that he makes the Sovereign 6 Alliance. Fun fact, Kaysar has never been in the Big Brother house without Janelle. And also another fun fact, this was Janelle's 200th day in the Big Brother house, the first house guest to reach 200 days. So that's exciting.
That's great. So we were remarking, Stephen, this is a quick little aside. So the last time that Janelle was evicted from the house in BB 14 was Tyler got his tweet on the show, right? The live eviction. And so we were like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing.
Wait, this Tyler or Tyler in house?
Me.
This Tyler.
Okay.
This Tyler. Okay. Right. So we were talking about that. And then today is the day that Janelle gets evicted for her second time. So we're like, oh, that's so funny. But what's the number one memory in my Facebook? When my tweet made it on a different eviction night, because clearly you weren't evicted, but it was when you and Johnny Mack were on the block next to each other. Johnny got evicted, and then there was he came back in the house. But I got laughing hysterically. I was like, What are the chances that we were talking about the Janelle evictions and like Tyler's tweet, and then on the same day that Janelle gets evicted again, my tweet that made it on television in support of Steve, and now Steve's going to be on the show. Like it's a whole thing. So we're all connected. So Janelle just needs to come party with us.
Oh my God, I would love that. Steve, I have to ask, because I love Vanessa so much, what was it like playing with Vanessa Russo?
That's a big question. It was. I was blessed to have her there. She was very key to my game. Mm. It's an interesting position. To being in the passenger seat and knowing you're in the passenger seat is much scarier than I anticipated.
Mm. Oh wow! Yeah,
and that was my plan. You watch any preseason thing I did. The whole plan was to be a backseat on a majority alliance, and a lot of my game was just making sure whatever I'm going to use her word incentives to make sure that her incentives always lined up with keeping me for until I had to flip things. Knowing you don't have control and not trying to take control is difficult.
Yeah.
Because I knew the second that things slipped, I'd be out, and I knew she had that level of control and I didn't. So just constantly being in her pocket and making sure that if things changed, I had to change wherever I was to make sure I stayed there was always an interesting finagle.
Did she really have like any kind of inkling that you were going to evict her when you did?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that she was.
I don't think so.
I think she pretty much thought that she was going to final two.
Which was my whole game.
Yeah.
The fact that I that was the main thing I did right is I tricked her.
Yeah.
The whole game.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, that's all you had to do the entire game. I mean, you had wonderful other things to bring up in your final two speeches and question answering, but like, that's all you had to say was, I tricked Vanessa.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
give
me my money.
You know got out like the professional poker player, like the,
and she got to do the rest of the gameplay for me.
Yeah. That's and get all the blood.
That is exactly what happened.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So Steve,
I'm sad she's not there now.
I know. I really wish she was.
I don't blame her. She just had 3 kids.
Yeah,
I know.
Don't blame her in the least.
It's definitely an understandable situation, but I would have loved to see.
I would have loved to see
Vanessa not try, but she would have been like masterful with these people.
Yeah.
She's another one of those people where her name's so big.
That's
she might have been Janelle.
That's true. I would have loved to see who she would have aligned with. Like, I have a feeling it would not have been with like the Tyler Cody group. It would have been the outsiders. Yeah.
You know, she rallied up a group of outsiders successfully before. She may have
absolutely.
She may have been a blessing of the season.
Absolutely.
So Steve, I want to ask you before we head out, who do you think is going this week, and who do you think ultimately is the winner of Big Brother 22 All Stars?
I gotta know who HOH is before I say who's going. I got no clue.
Well, right now it looks like this one puppy is beating the other puppy in a wrestling match. So that's all I can help you out with the HOH.
So I'm going to say puppy number 2 is probably getting evicted.
Which means kitten number 3 is getting evicted. Is that what's happening?
Yeah. I'll say the same 5 names again. Cody, Christmas, Enzo, Tyler. Cody, Christmas, Enzo, Tyler, Franzel.
Yeah. And ultimately, like, if you had to pick like just one person, like all the pressure right now.
Oh my gosh. Can I refuse?
No.
I don't want to be wrong.
You must answer. This is
Cody.
I'm in agreement. Cody's my winner pick out of everybody. Like
it was Kevin. It was previously Kevin. Mm-hmm. That didn't last.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin was Alex Kidwell's winner pick too, so you're not alone there, Steve. You're in good company there.
I want y'all to know my winner pick was, and in my heart is still Kaysar, because he won our Rant Steal before the season began, and I called that he would win when we were just looking at the pictures. So I just feel a special connection with Kaysar. So he's gonna.
Kaysar's never made jury.
I know, this is his
Kaysar's been evicted. I think he's not the only person to be evicted 3 times and not make jury.
Listen, he's not going to make jury this time because he's going to not have to go to the jury house because he's just going to be in the final 2. Duh.
Yeah, I mean, that is true. Like, this could be Kaysar season. What an exciting turn of events that would be, and very un-2020. But I would be here for it.
Why did you have to bring 2020 into this? Now we're gonna have a Nicole Franzel win. I'm just kidding.
I know Nicole Franzel is a little unbearable personality-wise, but you got to give her props for the game that she's playing. And Definitely. If she's the first two-time Big Brother winner, I wouldn't be totally upset about
She needs to be there with Ian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think she would win a jury vote against Ian as it stands right now.
Fine, but there's no conversation of Franzel winning if we're talking about anyone but Ian.
That's not true.
What if she's there with David? Yeah.
Yeah, what if she's there with David? She wins.
I think she wins against Memphis, too.
I think we could set the universe right here, make 1 million copies of this universe, and play out the game in 1 million different ways. I think we have a Franzel David final 2 in 0 of them.
I will die if that's what this season comes down to.
No chance.
We will replay that clip if that happens.
That would be the most iconic final 2 ever. And I'm not even joking. In terms of the entertainment that would bring to my television.
I would love to see David's final 2, please.
I never thought anything could beat Jackson Mickey coming out after being told that America hates him for being a racist and winning $1 million and being so, or not $1 million, $500,000 and coming out and being like, I'm not a racist.
Yeah.
I never thought that would be so exciting to have something beat that, but I think a David Nicole Franzel final 2 could do it for me.
I would be
shut your mouth. You shut your read with your mouth. Elizabeth Dixon, you shut your read with your mouth.
These cursed things.
It was Beth's dad that taught me the term reed liquor. Just throwing that out there.
That is true. Okay, so everyone needs to know I play the clarinet. The clarinet has a reed. That's why we got a trombonist here, so we have a rivalry between brass.
No, you're just wrong, and I call you out on it. This is not a rivalry.
Percussionist. Why are you taking his side? We should be against him.
No. Your dad's right.
Oh, goodness.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for us. Of course, like we don't even have an HOH to speculate on, so we will see what happens.
No, let's just decide the HOH is Kaysar.
Okay,
yep.
Let's do it.
Kaysar won HOH, everyone.
Kaysar won HOH.
Yay!
He's already put Tyler and Cody up on the block. Davonne has one veto and has decided not to use it. We're looking at a split vote with Kaysar breaking the tie. And somehow Nicole Franzel gets evicted too. That is what's happening this week.
This week on America's Vote. Thanks, America. Don't vote for me.
Is disturbingly on. Your voice is like I am uncomfortable.
Steve, you have to check out the brand steal if you want to hear Beth do her, because Nicole Franzel, she's in it for the long haul. That brand steal.
Talk about Nicole Franzel. We kept making every time that there was like a trivia HOH or veto or something like that. We always joked that it was trivia about Nicole because it was like 2 days after the rumor started that she got Derek and Dan kicked off of the season. So we were just rolling with the rumor mill with that, just like for fun. And she was like, so I made sure production told me that every single question would be about my life. And then it turned out that she would get last place in every trivia competition, the brand steal. So we're like, so I threw the competition.
I didn't they asked about me and Victor.
They asked me if Victor was going to do this, and I thought he would, but the answer is no. I didn't know what I was getting into.
This just in, Hamster Watch is saying that Enzo is rumored to have won the HOH.
Ooh.
I'm sorry.
They spelled Kaysar wrong.
Bye, Davonne. Love you all.
Wait, Hamster Watch. Tell them to turn the feeds off.
Right. Yeah, that would not be good. But
Enzo's putting up like a Bailey Davonne, right?
What's that?
Enzo's putting up like a Bailey Davonne, right?
Put Kaysar up because they said that alliance said they would put up.
Oh.
Yeah. But if something hinky happens with Vito, like it could easily be a situation where Davonne gets a really ugly like backdoor situation, and I would hate to see that for her.
I feel like
Davonne's already the winner of the season.
In
Jim
our
and I get
hearts.
keys in the box. Davonne
Yes.
won the season. I'd like to be
Yes.
completely clear about this.
Yes.
Yes.
I will go
Davonne's
revise
the
the
winner in our
Wikipedia page if
hearts.
I have to.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think that if Enzo wins, I think his two nominees will be David and Kaysar with a Davonne back door if it
Why
needs
David?
to happen.
That's random. Why David?
Because
Who else? Like, would he put up like Ian against?
maybe
Kaysar?
Yes.
Kevin. I think he'd
Maybe
put Kevin over Ian.
Mhm.
But I think David would be the pawn to get Kaysar out because I think enough people don't. I think there's a lot of reason within his own 6 alliance to not trust David after everything he just did to Tyler and Cody.
Oh, that's right. So pawn him.
So pawn him and then be like, we saved you. You know what I mean? Like, because David would fall for that kind of thing. That's what I think is what they could do with him. But they also could do like a Dave or a Kaysar and Kevin, I think.
Yeah.
I was
And
really
honestly,
hoping David was playing this up. I'm
if
so
Kevin-
glad he's not.
If Kevin goes this week, I'm okay with it. He's not really adding anything to the game, and I feel like it's just gonna make the tension like even tighter for like the like explosion that's gonna happen like within this like big alliance. So I'm here for that. I'm here for like however that shakes out. But Kevin's not really adding too much of anything to the mix, so I would rather Kevin go than a Kaysar. So I don't know. Take what we can get at this point, right?
Well, clearly we still have to fill out some of the details of this week, but be sure to tune in on Tuesday when we'll be doing our feeds updates. Steven, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know it was pretty last minute. I only asked you a few hours ago if you would free up your plans to come on the show.
You know, I was going out tonight, but then this pandemic happened, so I couldn't go anywhere.
Tonight was the one night you had planned all 2020. No, Steven, where can people find you and what other projects are you working on?
I'm at Steve Moses Sound on Twitter. Well, I will be tweeting Davonne GIF upon Davonne GIF, pointing out who the real star of 2020 is.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm also on the TV co-op now. I'm currently doing shows every Tuesday, and that's probably going to pick up in the very near future.
Nice.
Awesome.
So go check out TV Co.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do that, please. And Tyler, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff at TLions. And if you need a wedding photographer, scratchstudios.co. Check that out as well. But yeah, we will see you guys on Tuesday. I can't wait to talk about everything that happens this week on the feeds and everything. So
I have a feeling that this week will break open the game in some capacity, even if
Not if Enzo wins.
I think if Enzo wins, I think between the Davonne, Bailey,
it broke open
David,
a little bit with Tyler winning HOH.
Yeah.
Like David is just so terrible at this game that
he's
just
unintentionally.
Chicken George. We have a Chicken George this year.
Truly. All right, guys. Well, have a great rest of your night. Stay safe. Wear a mask. All of that fun stuff. And
beforehand, please make sure to follow us here on YouTube. You can also follow my Twitch account, twitch.tv/AugustaWind11, spelled out like this. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at AugustaWind11. We are also on Apple Podcasts now. So please feel free to look up My Weekly Meltdown and become a subscriber. Please, if you can, take some time to rate and review our show as well. We greatly appreciate it, and it does help boost our show as well. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you all stopping by, and we look forward to seeing you on Tuesday.
And remember, the golden rule, be kind, everyone.
Be kind.
Be kind, everyone. Yes. Excellent. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.